Manhattan Beach, California, down Los Angeles area. Got Jared, does high-end bathroom remodels, but he's got his start doing shower pan repairs. What we're gonna do is take 2 rows for this repair. And this is a beautiful marble shower that the hot mop, the curb was too low and the water was wicking up and over and flooding the downstairs. We're gonna go 2 rows up, cut this marble slab out, hopefully get it all torn out, do a pre-slope pan liner, and we're gonna make the curb a little bit taller. So we got everything set up, ready to rock. So let's get cutting. It's important when you set up the negative air pressure that you seal off around the fan, because otherwise what it'll do is it'll want to just draw air from around the fan and then back out, and it won't create a good vacuum going out. So I just used some cardboard, sealed it up, cut the hole, got the little fan. This is pretty key when you're doing demos like this.
Ideally, we want to get through the tile, the mortar bed, and the wire all in one cut. So if we use a small grinder, it's easy to make a nice cut in the tile, but then you have to turn it upside down and it's very cumbersome to get through the rest of the material. So with a big grinder, that'll get through all that material, but it's very hard to contain the dust with a grinder like this. So a really simple DIY kind of rigged up fix is just a hose that I control with my finger right here. I put the tail end of it in a bucket, and once the water starts running out, turn the grinder on, and that's my wet grinder.
You just siphon it down?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love get her done stuff, man. I just love it.
I had a nicer tube on and a little bit nicer setup, but you know, as the years go by.
So instead of spending, you know, a bunch of money on some special water feed, you got an old compressor hose, looks like a little cup wheel for a weight that's going to go down, and then he's just going to siphon the water out and it's going to feed down. That's cool. But first we're just dry cutting, right?
Dry cut first.
Okay, so we're dry cutting first.
Yep, that's it.
Got a nice line. We'll end up hitting this with hit it with a couple pads.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Soften it up. Beautiful.
Yep. Absolutely.
We stayed below the grout joint just a little bit. I say we, Jared, stayed below the grout joint just so we didn't chip the tile above it. Do you think that went through the hot mop too, Jared?
You can kind of feel it when it hits, yeah. On this side, for sure it was, and then it felt like it the whole way.
Yeah, so it's got went all the way through the mortar bed, everything, and now we're just cleaning up this slurry. All right, we'll get this cleaned up and then chip out the floor here. All right, we got everything ready for the pre-slope. Got everything cleaned up real nice. Got all of the edges cleaned up. Got the grout out. Got the new curb built with kiln-dried lumber. Put a nice pitch coming into the shower. Got a nice slope on it. Cleaned everything up real nice. Tar paper's down. Gonna be using rapid setting mortar for the pre-slope. I calculated out I'm gonna need about 1.5 inches on the perimeter and about 1/2 inch at the drain here. I should be able to just use the bottom plate, the 2x4, as a guide for my pre-slope screed. That should give me enough fall. That's 1/4 inch per foot from the longest point. This mortar is not for DIYers. It sets up very fast. I would do this in 2 days. Do your pre-slope with just a Type S mortar and then come back and put your pan liner on it the next day. But we're gonna since we're going to be putting the pan liner on it today and floating the pan, hopefully, we're going to be using the rapid setting mortar. Well, that's never easy, Zach. It's always a challenge.
Yeah, every time.
You got it though. Jared's going to be putting in the pan liner. We got the pre-slope all done. It's starting to kick off. What do you think this took? About 15 minutes for it to start to get hard? So it's already hard. First bucket went there. You can see it's dry. Second bucket went there. It's dry. This side is still just starting to firm up, but it's fine to work on. Got the pan liner ready to cut. I love working alongside other pros. I always pick up new tips and tricks of how to do things.
All right, so I folded it up so when I center it in the shower, it should unfold with even lengths on all sides, which is going to be a little bit long on all the sides, and I'll just staple it up to the studs and then cut it to length.
You also notice that we left the bolts in the bottom flange. That's one step that you want to do. See how the bolts are in the flange? Whatever shower flange. This is a big old commercial drain, but if you had a regular one, yeah, just leave your bolts in there. That way you know where to cut your bolt holes once you get the pan liner in.
Yep. Simpler. Thank you.
That hospital fold going. So no need to cut your inside corners. So I'll show you how Jared is.
So I'll get my back wall nice and secured, and then I'll go back to those corners. I'm going to cut the excess off before I do the folds in the corners. So I tucked that between the studs. I tucked the pan liner behind the paper in the wall between the studs.
So everything's laid correctly. Yep.
Yeah, and we'll still go through with some sealant.
Yeah. Yeah.
Always retract your blade when you're setting your knife on the pan liner.
Another trick of the trade.
So there's the first fold. Back wall is totally secure. Cut it to height, and then we're just gonna take this loose side over and put the fold behind the liner, behind the shower.
Just cut that straight up. So the pan liner will lay down flat, and then this gets a corner here, and then we'll probably put another corner on this side to like that, and then we'll trim that. So this goes, what do we got, 1.5 inches there. So this one's gonna go right there, just like that. So same principle as the top of the curb, just so that we can glue to it without putting any staples in it.
Since we're covering that, we can get a staple in there to tighten it up too, right?
Yeah.
On this side.
So rule is no fasteners, you know, again, this is just we're gonna put pan liner over it, but no fasteners 3 inches below the top of the curb. So you can go 3 inches, no staples below it. Okay, so the trick to this X15 glue is that it's like contact cement. We're just gonna sop it on here. And now we can you can just, either way, you can let this dry and then coat the other side, or you can just tack it down, give it some pressure, and then pull it up like that. That just introduces some air to it. This is basically just a fastener to hold the top down to the curb, so we don't gotta put penetrations. Let's see how that did. We got that. We can put fasteners on the outside of the curb, which we'll do, and we'll do after we do these corners. So let's do this one first. We're gonna wrap this area. Should I do the back side of that? And depending on temperature and humidity, this takes a little while to tack up. Once you do that, then you can stick it back on there and it's really going to stay where you put it.
Gloves are good with that.
Yeah, I should be wearing gloves. Got all my fingers.
Some parts of the job they're in the way, other parts definitely benefit.
Seal.
Just put it back on, right?
Yep. Now it's okay to put staples on the outside of the curb. That's fine. And then I'm going to do this last little damn corner. This one's going to go over the top of the other one. Yeah, you can feel it, right? You can see the little indention. That's how you know where to cut your holes perfectly. So now we're making sure we get a good seal between the pan liner and the bottom flange of the drain. Using 100% silicone. You can use an MS polymer sealant or polyurethane also. But silicone is good stuff too. Make sure you get a good squish and seal down in there.
It's good. You can see it come up through the bolt holes.
That's the way it should look. Cinched down nice and tight, pan liner's connected to the bottom flange, the clamping ring is down, secured. Contrary to what a lot of people do, what I'll see is some people put sealant between the clamping ring and the pan liner, and you don't want to gunk that up because we want these weep holes to operate freely with no sealant gunking that up. Jared, can you explain how the smooth side of the lath goes down and the finished side goes up? So, see, we got the sharp side of the lath is up on the top, and then the smooth side. Siri. And then the smooth side is down on the bottom.
Yeah, so we're doing that because we can see the way you cut and install the shower pan liner is just with a utility knife or with scissors. So we can't have this sharp edge. This is really razor sharp after you cut it. We can't have that touching the bottom, especially this corner of the pan liner. So we always cut off of the two factory edges of the long piece of lath, and we put that factory edge down because we're trying to jam it in there. So there's some tension on it.
Because we can only put staples in on the top, so you want to cut your lath just a little bit bigger than the width, so you can kind of jam it in there and it stays, because we can only put staples in on the top, the very top of it.
You don't want the bottom flopping around.
But yeah, you can see how the top of that lath is sharp, so we want that side up, and we want the nice smooth side down against the pan liner. Okay, we're on day 2 of this repair. We got a bunch of work done yesterday, and we're getting ready to do some more work today. The shower pan's all ready to go. We floated it yesterday. You can see it's already rock hard and got a nice slope on everything. The way that I float these pans, and I've shown in other videos how I do this, and I'll put a link to a more comprehensive video in the description. What I do is I make a notch. I call this a Dago stick. Make a notch the thickness of the tile. That's just the thickness of the tile. So that when we screed off of the top of the drain, we put this notch right on the drain, and we screed that so that when our tile is ready for thinset, it fits flush to the top of the drain. So that's one trick, and I just screed it around. First, don't want to forget, definitely put pea gravel around the weep holes. Really want to protect those weep holes. And the float came out really nice. I went around and I just cleaned up the edges of my lath just to get the deck mud out of the lath. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these foam strips in. These are going to be my capillary break. I put these foam strips in. That way when my wall mud goes on, it's not going to have, there's no capillary action that can take place to wick up the wall. Especially on the curb. It's especially important on the curb because we don't want any water to wick up and over the curb and cause damage like it did the first time we did. So I needed to clean out, you know, there was some deck mud back in the lath and I needed to clean that out. So I just took my vacuum and cleaned out so it's nice. And so I'm going to put a bead of sealant back there because since my foam strip can't get behind the lath now, I want to fill with sealant so there's no wall mud that gets down and touches this deck mud. I want to separate that really nicely. I'm giving them a lifetime guarantee on this repair, so I want it done right. We're taking all the necessary measures to make sure this sucker lasts. We're going to fill this in with fat mud. I get a lot of questions on that about how, once you put the pan liner in, how do you fill this area, because it's an awkward area. Do you put any board down into the mud? You know, some manufacturers say you can, some say you can't. A lot of confusion on how to do this area right here. Well, the simplest way is to do mud. And if you make one of these gauges, you can just screed off of the existing tile like this. And then that's going to give me the finished thickness again. That notches the thickness of the tile so that once we're done, the tile will flush up right to the existing tile. So we're going to get started. We'll get these strips down and then we'll get some fat mud going.
Well, I wanna send a postcard from the edge of a place I've never been. And I wanna make love hard under the stars in the back of a beat up OK 10. And I wanna love a girl who doesn't worry about the pictures when we kiss, and wake up one day and not be so hit and miss, and lay in bed all day and call that shit pure bliss. I'm moving at God's speed. Only God and my mama know what I need. And I feel the hardwood floors on my knees as I beg you just to take it easy on me. I'm moving at God's speed. Well, I wanna see the road melt into the mountains away as I drive, and make it out of this damn town alive, and not let the dreams I shoulder die. 'Cause I'm moving at God's speed. Only God and my mama know what I need. And I feel the hardwood floors on my knees as I beg you just to take it easy on me. Well, I wanna die an old man, messed up stories of me and all my old friends, and laugh about how we all thought it won't end, how we all wind up where we began. Moving at God's speed, where only God and our mamas know what we need, and we feel the hardwood floors on our knees as we beg the world to bring us to our feet. 'cause I'm moving at God's speed. Only God and my mama know what I need. And I feel the hardwood floors on my knees as I beg you just to take it easy on me. I'm moving at God's speed.